Okay, I'm going to pipe a Santa and a Christmas tree today. I'm using the Key Seal disposable bags. You do have to make a flesh color for this one. I just take the white buttercream that I buy, the Wilton's, and I just add a very tiny small drop of orange to it, and it gives a really nice flesh color. You'll need black and white, red, yellow, and then I use the paper parchment cones for a lot of my detailed work. But first, you start off by doing his tummy. And generally, you just find a cup or something and you stamp your cake with it. And that'll be his tummy. And then you just fill it in with the red. It's pretty, I use a lot of pressure when I'm piping, and so it's more 3D. And then you smooth it out.
Don't worry, we can cut out.
And then you pipe on his head. And this is the circle that I had showed before. I use this in a lot of my designs. But you start it out and you pump out a lot and you wrap it around. It's how I do all of my heads. It's like a gigantic curved carrot. And then you smooth out his face. And that sits right on top of the red belly. And you can put on his arms. And they're just like little half moons. Then you put on his legs. And they're just oblong. And then you put on his hat. And I like tilting his hat to the side. And so you start a little bit over, you know, from the center, and you go this way, and then you go back the other way, and you kind of just trail it out instead of piping it on and then having to smooth it out. You just kind of go back and forth in like a triangle formation. Then you do his boots, and these are just, you just try to do what boots look like. You can put on his hands. Just very small little like teardrops. Very small teardrops. I'm not using any round tips. These are probably the equivalent to a size 8. I generally don't use round tips. I just cut my bags. But you go back and you put the lip of his hat. And the beauty with Santa is most of him is just a lot of white piping. And then you can put on the ball of his hat. And another nice thing is that the white caps out all of the places where the icing meets. You just go right over it, and it covers it up so you don't have to smooth it, you don't have to do anything. But his beard, you start at the bottom of his face and just kind of do a rolling motion, and you bring it right up to the other side. And then if you want it to be a little bit farther down in there, you just keep going over the top of it. You don't have to give him a mouth. You don't have to give him a mouth or anything. You just fill in. You can do this with a star tip too if you want. You can give, these are like little curved carrots. You can give them like a mustache. And then you put a nose on there. I'm going to make up a paper parchment cone to do some of the detailed white work. And then you just put like a rolled or line right down the middle. And you do one that goes all the way across his belly. And then you do white in between his hand and his sleeve. And this is just like moving back and forth. It's probably the equivalent to a size 2 or 1, but you can use larger if you want. And then you put the fur on the top of his boots. And you kind of curve it around instead of going straight across. It looks like it's more 3D that way. But you just fill in all those blanks. I mean all those spaces where the two colors of icing meet with white. Then you give him a belt, a black belt. And that's going to go from the white part on the one sleeve to the other white part on the other sleeve. And it's just a black line that's going to go across there. And then you give him a yellow belt buckle. Generally for the more detailed work, I always make up the paper parchment cones, but I think a tip would work just fine. I just find it easier to work with the cones. And the buckle is just going to be a square. You're just going to pipe a square over the top of that black belt. Now for his eyes. You can do two things with his eyes. You can either give him happy smiling eyes, which I'll do, or you can just do 2 black dots. But when you're doing faces, it's very important that you keep the eyes really close to the nose. It makes a much cuter face. It's like the farther the eyes get from the nose, for some reason, for me, it doesn't look right. So I always make sure to put my eyes really close to my nose. Can't remember. I'm just going to do 2 black dots. And you just put them right next to the nose, and they're just little black dots. Then you want to go back with your small white, and you want to add white eyebrows above his eyes. But that's what makes Santa so easy, is that you don't have to give him a mouth. You can cover up everything with his beard. But that's a Santa. You can use a star tip for all of this if you want. I'm going to flip it over.